So our first prediction relates to how data governance is likely to change on a global basis. If we believe that we need to turn more data into work, well, businesses haven't generally adopted many of the principles associated with those practices. They haven't optimized to do that better. They haven't elevated those concepts within the business as broadly and successfully as they have, or as they should. We think that's going to change in part by the emergence of GDPR, or the General Data Protection Regulation. It's going to go in full effect in May 2018. A lot has been written about it, a lot has been talked about, but our core issues ultimately is that the dictates associated with GDPR are going to elevate the conversation on a global basis. And it mandates something that's now called the Data Protection Officer. We're going to talk about that in a second, Dave Vellante. But it is going to have real teeth. So we were talking with one chief privacy officer not too long ago who suggested that had the Equifax breach occurred under the rules of GDPR, that the actual fines that would have been levied would have been in excess of $160 billion, which is a little bit more than the $0 that has been fined thus far. Now, we've seen new bills introduced in Congress, but ultimately our observation in our conversations with a lot of chief privacy officers or data protection officers is that in the B2B world, GDPR is going to strongly influence not just how businesses behave regarding data in Europe, but on a global basis.
The AI, a lot of the undertone is cloud, cloud, cloud. Governance, governance, governance. There's two kind of the drivers I've been seeing as the forces this week is a lot of people trying to get their act together on those two fronts. And you can kind of see the scabs on the industry. Some people haven't been paying attention, and they're weak in the area. Cloud is absolutely going to be driving the big data world because data is horizontal. Cloud's the power source to that. You guys have been on that. What's your thoughts? What are the drivers and currents? First of all, do you agree with what I was saying, and what else did I miss? I mean, security's obviously in there, but.
Absolutely. No, so I think you're exactly right on. So obviously governance, security is a big deal, largely being driven by the GDPR regulation that's happening in Europe. But I mean, every company today is global, so everybody's essentially affected by it. So I think data up till now has always been a kind of opportunistic thing that, there's a couple guys in the organization who are looking at it as, oh, let's do some experimentation, let's do something interesting here. Now it's becoming government mandate. And so I think there's a lot of organizations who are, like to your point, getting their act together, and that's driving a lot of demand for data management products. So now people say, well, if I got to get my act together, I don't have to hire armies of people to do it. Let me look for automated, machine learning-based ways of doing it so that they can actually deliver on the audit reports that they need to deliver on, ensure the compliance that they need to ensure, but do it in a very scalable way.
If me as a customer come to an enterprise and say, I don't want any of my data stored, it's up to you to go delete that data completely, right? That's the term that's being used, and that goes into effect in May. How do you make sure that that data gets completely deleted by that time that customer has? How do you get that consent from the customer to go do all this? So there's a whole lot of challenges as data multiplies. How do you deal with the data? How do you create insights to the data? How do you create consent on the data? How do you be compliant on that data? How do you create the policies that's needed to generate that data? All those things needs to be, those are the challenges that enterprises face.
Digital transformation is accelerating, data protection is being disrupted, millions of dollars are coming in. You guys are playing a role. What is the role that Dhruv is playing in the digital transformation acceleration?
Absolutely. So think of the world, right? You think of companies like Domino's or Tesla. They think they're software companies, right? They serve what they used to deliver via software, a software approach of the traditional business model. In the heart of this transformation of enterprises becoming software and digitalized, it's the data at the core. And data today will outlive most systems. And the more and more fragmented your approach to data becomes, you store data on-prem, in the cloud, everywhere in between, the data management has to become more and more centralized. So Dhruva is in the core of this transformation, making a data transformation and making sure your data architecture of the future have a better approach of manageability and protection with the Dhruva platform.
You guys had a busy month this month. You got a couple big news we're going to be talking about today, a funding and next generation platform. Walk us through that.
Absolutely. So we have two big news to announce today. The first one being $80 million of capital raised led by Riverwood Capital, followed by most other investors, including Sequoia, Nexus and Tanaya Capital. And then the number two being we are announcing a whole new Druva cloud platform, which holistically takes our entire product portfolio and puts it together in a nice, simplistic approach to manage your entire information workload on a single platform in the cloud.
The first question in mind is everybody ready for GDPR? The answer is no. Have they started into the journey have they started getting on the racetrack, right, on the road? Yes, yeah. It depends on maturity of that organization. Some people have just started building a small strategy around GDPR. Some people have actually started doing assessment to understand how complex is this beast and regulation. And some people have just moved further in the journey of doing assessment, but they're now putting up changes in their infrastructure to handle remediation, right? Things like, for example, consent management, things like deletion. Like it could be a very big deal to do, right? I mean, so they are making changes to the infrastructure that they have or their IT systems to manage it effectively. But I don't think there's any company which probably can claim that they have got it right fully end to end, right?